This is the 5700X3D, the little brother to one of AMD's most popular CPUs, the 5800X3D. In today's video, we're going to compare both CPUs in Star Citizen and see how they perform. The 5700 CPU comes in at roughly $200, meanwhile the 5800X3D comes in at $120 more expensive. That's roughly a 50% price hike over the little brother. They both come in with 8 cores, meanwhile the big brother has 4.5 GHz boost clock and the little brother having 4.05 GHz boost clock. So there's only a 10% core clock difference, meanwhile there's a massive 50% price difference. So let's take a look at how they both perform in Star Citizen, both stock and tuned. These settings, as always, is set at very high at 1080p to ensure that the 4090 is completely CPU bottlenecked. And we begin with the classic Lorville Run, which is one of the most demanding landing zones in Star Citizen. And Lorville will always reveal any bottlenecks in your system, whether it's related to your CPU, memory, or GPU. As a baseline, when running both CPUs at plug-and-play settings without entering the BIOS, you're getting 2666 MHz on the memory. And both CPUs get virtually the same performance within margin of error. Now, let's go into the BIOS and set the memory at the most popular memory frequency for the 5000 series, which is 3600 MHz at CL16. With these settings in Star Citizen, we're seeing roughly 10 to 12% better performance than the plug-and-play settings. Now, let's go to the BIOS and fine-tune the CPU and memory. Here are the IDA64 results. For the results, we're getting 14 to 19% better performance across the board. This jump is larger than going from the plug-and-play settings to the AMD recommended XPO settings. In total, if you're doing nothing to your memory, you're missing up to 33% better performance when your system is fully tuned compared to the plug-and-play default I don't care about RAM speed settings. And when people say RAM speed doesn't matter for X3D chip, just show them this. No wonder people say Star Citizen is unoptimized when you're missing over 30% performance. The BIOS profile is available to my subscribers in my Discord below, which is compatible with Samsung B-Die chips and this Asus motherboard. And this is why I say the only thing unoptimized is your PC. So how does a tuned 5000 series with X3D chip compare against the 7800 X3D? Well, as you can see, it's only 6 to 10% faster. And this is why it's so important to tune even your 7800 X3D, because when it's tuned, that margin and that gap becomes even larger. Otherwise, what's the point of upgrading? Whereas now 16 to 19% faster. Moving on to Area 18, looking at tune for tune, both CPUs are within margin of error to perform exactly the same. This shows a clear pattern that both CPUs are memory bound. So the additional 10% higher clock on the 5800 X3D does not benefit the CPU. Looking at the 7800 X3D, we can see that there's roughly 15 to 17% better performance tuned for tuned. Now imagine a stock 7800 X3D will perform roughly 10 to 5% worse, which shows that you get a lot of value from the previous generation X3D chip. Finally, during the Orison run, we can see that once again both CPUs are within margin of error. However, now the 7000 X3D chip has a massive lead with over 40 to 50% better performance. This is most likely due to the 5000 series being bandwidth starved with its DDR4. Now, luckily, I've found probably one of the best Samsung B-Die memories, and I've shared it in the description below with an Amazon link. So in summary, the 5700 X3D versus the 5800 X3D is virtually the same, assuming you have the same memory configuration in Star Citizen. This test once again demonstrates that Star Citizen is heavily memory bound, both on the bandwidth side and latency. And when even a 2-year-old CPU is fully tuned, it is competitive with the latest 7800 X3D, which is currently the fastest AMD CPU. My previous recommendation from over 1 year ago still holds true. The only difference now being that instead of upgrading to the 5800 X3D, you should replace that with the 5700 X3D. If you're still on the AM4 platform, the 5700X 3D provides similar performance to its bigger brother. As long as you have the best DDR4 memory, B-Die, you're able to achieve very similar performance almost to a stock 7800X 3D. It is even coming in at over $120 cheaper than its older brother, making it one of the best value CPUs. And hopefully you learned something new today. If you did and you liked this video, please subscribe. It adds a lot of value to me so I can continue making this kind of videos. And as always, the only thing unoptimized is your PC.